So you want to be an influencer. Well, that means that at some point you're going to have to deal with criticism, haters, and trolls. And it's important for you to be able to know the difference. So today we're going to talk about how to deal with online criticism on social media, how to deal with haters and trolls, and I'm going to make sure that you understand the difference between criticism and haters, and more importantly, qualified, valid criticism and unqualified criticism that basically is a worthless opinion that was up-jumped to make someone feel more important than they actually are. Yeah, I said what I said. The quiet part out loud. I've been on YouTube for a number of years. Technically, I've been on YouTube even since the very beginning, and I've made over 1,500 videos on my main YouTube channel, done a podcast channel with about maybe like 70 or so videos. And I am one of the unfortunate people who is on Twitter and has been on Twitter for more than 6 years now. So when it comes to online criticism and when it comes to actual haters and actual trolls and basically people who are terminally online, I have a wealth of experience to share with you. Let's start with the easy part and how to identify haters and trolls and kind of separate them out from everybody else. When it comes to haters and trolls, the most obvious way to identify them is when what they're saying has nothing to do with what you said or what you did or the content that you're making or creating or anything like that. So a hater is not someone who says, hey, the audio is really bad, or hey, the video is drifting out of focus. That's just a comment, and that could help you improve in some way. A hater or a troll is somebody that basically is just being rude and insulting, and a lot of times it will resort to name calling, ad hominem attacks, comments on your appearance or your voice. And by your voice, I don't mean the audio. I mean literally just saying like your voice is annoying, or I don't like your voice, or anything like that. Those people are just being negative and mean-spirited and saying things that did not need to be said and add no value to you or to the other people in the audience. That's basically the main way that you can identify haters and trolls, is the fact that they're making fun of you, taking you wildly out of context, putting words into your mouth, or just using odd ad hominem attacks or comments on your appearance or your voice or some other factor that is like beyond your control. Criticism is when people are talking about things that are within your control. And a lot of that comes down to they might have critiques about the quality of the content or the value of the content itself. What critics are not really good faith critics, if they do, is they challenge things that you can't prove, like ethics, morality, or character. A lot of times they'll make bad faith arguments about that. When that's a valid criticism, it would be like a specific accusation of something provable that you've done, not how they feel about what you've done. So valid criticism is based in facts, logic, reason, and something that is measurable, observable, and provable. That is actually a very good baseline for being able to prove valid criticism. And someone who isn't doing that and isn't capable of doing that is not a critic. They're a hater posing as a critic. They're not qualified to be a critic. Constructive criticism and valid criticism are not the same thing. Constructive criticism is meant to be accurate, actionable advice. And for something to be accurate, actionable advice, it is meant to be helpful. It is delivered in a way in which it can be well received, and it has to be something that exists within the physical and logical realm of possibility for the people to do. It cannot be an impossible task. It cannot be an impossible task. The problem with people online a lot of times is they will demand perfection and ask for impossible tasks. Just so everyone knows, utopia is a scam, and you shouldn't really try to force on people the idea that they need to do things that exist outside their boundaries that have been established, outside the realm of their physical capabilities or capacity, or things that are detrimental to them that you want them to do. Those are not reasonable requests to make, and a lot of people try to pass off unreasonable demands, unreasonable expectations, and unreasonable requests, which we just qualified what those are, as criticism, whether constructed or valid, and they're wrong. That's not criticism. That's just them being absurd. And again, it will be about their feelings instead of about things that are factual and logical. And you're not really responsible or accountable to people's feelings. You're just really not. They could just not watch your content or not participate or, not involve themselves with you. And your best option when dealing with people who are bad faith critics, they're trolls, they're haters, your options really come down to ignore, block, ban, report, delete. So largely you could ignore them, but a lot of times that really doesn't work too well. And when I mean ignore them, don't bother to entertain a response at all. And the best way to ensure that you don't is to block, ban, and delete them across any and all platforms, period. And if you feel like there's someone who's a serial harasser, the responsible thing to do is to report them so that there's less of a likelihood that other people have to deal with it. This could also be helpful if you give clear guidance on when to do what. If you have moderators, if you're a streamer on YouTube, Twitch, I believe both of those platforms have moderation tools. I don't know if Facebook Live has moderation tools, but any platform where you have mods to help you out, YouTube, Discord, Twitch, those things, give them rules, guidelines, and protocols for when it's appropriate to suspend people, block people, ban people, delete their comments or post, and when to report them. I think you have the right to delete any comment on your platform that either doesn't make you feel good or is not valid or adds no value to the audience and is not really helpful to them, and or is just outside the boundaries or the rules that you set for your comments. Some people, they don't want vulgarity or swear words in their stuff because maybe they're a family channel, or maybe they're a Christian channel, or maybe they're very commercial and they're very protective of their brand. And I think that's fine. And I don't feel like that's silencing people. I think you have the right to set your boundaries, because I'm a believer, and I know not everyone will agree with this, but I believe in property rights. And I think part of property rights is your house, your rules. I'm dead serious about this, by the way. I believe that an extension of property rights is your house, your rules. And I think that your platform represents your independent, intellectual property. It's your intellectual property, it's your IP. And so again, your house, your rules. So I think you have the right to set rules and guidelines, your own community guidelines, if you will, just like platforms have community guidelines. A content creator and a community and someone hosting an event can have the rules for their event. If you're on stage and you're a public speaker and someone starts heckling you, you have the right to kick them out. They're disrupting the rest of the audience's experience. You don't have to put up with that. If someone wants to be rude, you have the right to kick them out of an event. You do. If someone's being rude in your house, you have the right to kick them out. If someone's rude to you on the street, you have the right to walk away. You don't have to sit there and take it. And so it's important to understand that. That's not censorship and that's not silencing when you're doing it as a content creator or an event host. You're not. People have to adhere to the rules. They can criticize, they can disagree, they can express themselves, but they have to do it within the established boundaries that were set by the person that's hosting them. Your house, your rules, your responsibility. I don't think that's remotely unreasonable, at all. Some people, they'll agree with me, they'll disagree with me. I think that a very clear boundary for deleting comments is ad hominem attacks. Anyone commenting on your appearance, or some characteristic that's beyond your control. I think anything like that, you can absolutely delete it and you can block and ban those people. I don't think most people will disagree with anybody that's attacking, how you look and how you sound and who you are as a person. I don't think that most people disagree with deleting that. Now, when it comes to valid criticism, as I said earlier, valid criticism is fine if, hey, what you're saying is logical and reasonable, what you're saying is provable, and what you're saying is factual. That's valid criticism. It may not be constructive. And so I think that valid criticism, even if it makes you feel bad, is fine. And I think you don't have to take it well. I think you have a right to be mad about it. I do think that the biggest issue that happens with social media influencers is it's not about taking criticism badly. No one has to take criticism well. No one has to take criticism well. You only have to respond to criticism well. You only have to respond, and that's a key to life as an adult, by the way, is you have to respond to challenging experiences, conflicts, and you have to respond well, and you have to respond measuredly, you have to respond appropriately. And yeah, sometimes it's gonna come off inauthentic and fake because your most authentic reaction might be to clothesline somebody. That might be your truth. Your truth might be the way you take bad faith criticism or negativity or criticism in general. Your first instinct may not be good. It might not even be legal. So maybe you could be a smidge less authentic by having a measured, appropriate, tactful, polite response. And the main one is probably usually, you're entitled to your opinion, or I respectfully disagree. Or it's like, well, I mean, I disagree, but you're entitled to feel that way. And, I'll see what can be done about improvements along the way. Or, okay, you know what? That's fair, or fair enough. Or, you don't have to watch the content. Those are all measured and appropriate responses, especially if they're delivered with an even tone. Like I said, sometimes the best thing you can do when responding to criticism is no response or a delayed response. And the delayed response is thinking about it. And the thing is, it's fine to admit that someone has a good point, even if it's something you're not going to change or that you don't fully agree with, but you could see how they got there. It's okay to say, that's a fair point, but I'm not going to really do that because I just don't feel like that would be me or authentic, or that's not the direction the community wants to go in, or majority of the people that are watching me have no problem with the way that I'm doing things or something like that. So I'm going to, stick with the majority here, or that's a good point. Maybe I'll look into it in the future, but right now, that's just not something that's a priority for me to address. Those are really good responses if there's valid criticism that you disagree with. Now, invalid criticism, that's harder sometimes to parse because you might not be objective about it. To be fair, you might not be objective about it. If you're someone who's your own harshest critic and someone's echoing like your worst fear, the worst thing you say about yourself, that might not be mentally healthy for you. So if you need to delete that because it's not mentally healthy for you, I'm fine with you deleting that. Not everyone will agree with me on that, but I'm gonna put, a creator's mental health as a priority. And I would say that in real life, you would probably set that boundary of, I'm dealing with something right now and I really don't need to hear that kind of thing from you. So if that's, how you're gonna be, I'm not gonna be around you. Like in real life, we set those boundaries. And I think a lot of content creators are afraid to set boundaries with their audience because they think they have to let their audience let everything ride. And see, I feel the rule is different for platforms, by the way, than for creators when it comes to this, because again, platforms setting rules in terms of service is one thing. Government regulation is one thing, but an individual's experience one-to-one with people or one-to-many with people, it's appropriate to set healthy boundaries. And with what we have with parasocial relationships, what we have with internet stalkers, what we have with serial harassers, there's really good reasons to set boundaries and to cut people off. Especially if you think that in some way, shape, or form that they're behaving in some way that's unhealthy for you, themselves, or the community. It's like, okay, it's a really good line in the sand to draw, and I don't really see a problem with it. When it comes to being an influencer, yes, to some extent you have to develop a thick skin, but if you have to develop a thick skin, I also think you have to develop boundaries, and you can't make every single thing that somebody who is in the audience wants to do permissible. You can't make everything permissible. That's not really healthy for anybody. So it's fine to have rules of engagement, boundaries, and a lot of these exist to maintain civility so that if people need to disagree, it has to be done respectfully. People can have different opinions. People can disagree with you. People can criticize you. They are obligated, in my opinion, to do it respectfully, and they cannot complain if you, delete, block, ban, and report them, banish them to the shadow realm where they belong if they decide to disrespect you. I think there are consequences for disrespect, and I think that those being minimum and appropriate consequences for disrespect are fine. There are worse consequences for disrespect. I mean, back in my day, consequences for disrespect meant people ran them hands. That's what we did back in my day. Like for real, that's what we did. Disrespecting someone meant run them hands. And that's obviously not appropriate. And so I think block, ban, delete, report is an appropriate response and consequence for people who want to disrespect you on the internet, and they should be grateful that that is the response. What you shouldn't do is you shouldn't respond in a way that essentially lets someone get to make content at your expense for free. And this is the pitfall and downfall of many content creators and many influencers, because they don't realize that they could just not respond and they could delay a response and let this person basically scream into a void or say what they want to say and it not be a vicious cycle. What they do is they respond emotionally, and not like what I would say is the best response a lot of times is to not respond at all, respond measuredly or even dismissively and very briefly, and then it's not worth making content about, So I think that that's a valid way to deal with it. And I think it's probably the healthiest way to deal with it for the benefit of yourself and your career. I don't like when, we get into a situation where there's a spiral effect to internalizing criticism and tearing yourself down and beating yourself up about it, and then thinking you have to change something about your personality or they have to completely upend the way that you make your content or anything like that. There's ways to silently take criticism and say, you know what, I could do a little bit better, and use it as motivation. And that could be a positive thing, but what you really shouldn't do is turn it into the opportunity to abuse yourself if you really feel like you're doing your best or you're doing the right thing. And don't listen to a vocal minority of people. It's not that you need to be in an echo chamber of people always praising you all the time, but you need to be able to parse, is the advice coming from somebody who has my best interest at heart and is being objective and is being logical and factual and fair-minded? Because I think the problem is the internet has created a system where every opinion is quote unquote as valid or as truthful or as important as every other opinion. And that makes no sense. That's not reasonable. It doesn't work that way. And the thing is, we so much as influencers are beholden to our audiences that you could feel held hostage by your audience. And I don't really think you should. I think you should draw some lines in the sand, and that you should know that you don't have to listen to everybody, and you should have some accountability partners that you feel can keep you in line and check, that will be honest with you. And being honest with you means showing you evidence and showing you logic and showing you something that's based in facts and not feelings. And when you have that, you know that your responses will be measured and they'll be appropriate and that you'll be doing the right things. So that's my best advice with dealing with online criticism, haters, and trolls, and basically how to tell the difference and how to identify them. I know some of you might have thought this video needed to be shorter, but I think everybody makes these short videos, and I feel like this one is going to help you figure yourself out and figure out what you need to be doing and when you need to be doing it. And I think that it's important to also understand that mods need to be given clear guidance so that they are treating people in your community fairly. And so that's why I wanted to make this video in detail, because I just don't feel that short content with no context and no nuance really cuts it. You want short content, you can go somewhere else. I'm gonna give you the details, I'm gonna give you the depth. You wanna go take notes. I should start selling notebooks. I should just start selling notebooks so that you could just take notes from Professor Roberto. But that's a subject for another day. We'll talk about merch another time. Anyway, if you enjoyed this content and you thought it was helpful, watch my playlist on helpful advice for content creators. We get into some of the things that people overlook. Also, if you're somebody that is struggling with imposter syndrome and burnout as a content creator, I have a video that I think might help you and make you feel a little bit less alone. As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, go out there and create something awesome today. Take care.